This EV wants to replace your gas-powered hatchback. It nails some things, it misses others, and the looks, well, you tell me. Kia wants the EV4 to look bold and futuristic, and it does. But it also looks like a praying mantis that just spotted its lunch. The rest is pretty conventional, but its sharp lines and unusual C-pillar scream, "Please notice me." You're not going to mistake this for something boring like a Volkswagen. It does all the boring sensible stuff. Comfy, spacious, good tech, decent range. The problem comes when you drive it. It feels soft and disconnected. And Kia ditched its brilliant 800-volt rear-wheel drive platform that made its EVs exciting, swapping it for front-wheel drive and 400 volts. This means Kia's brand new EV isn't as advanced as its older ones, and it doesn't charge anywhere near as fast. And all of that could have been forgiven if the EV4 was cheap. But it isn't. It starts from just under 38,000 euros in some markets, but here in Romania, where I'm driving it, it costs just over 39,500 euros. My well-equipped GT-Line tester here in Romania costs almost 48,000, and a few options bump its price to 52,200 euros. I had very high hopes for this car because it's one of Kia's most important new EVs, because it's just a regular hatchback, only one that runs on electric power. It has a long wheelbase of over 2.8 meters. I'm 183 centimeters tall, and I fit just fine behind myself. Comfort is definitely the big talking point with the EV4. It glides over most imperfections in the road, and it just makes this car very relaxing. It gets independent rear suspension, which helps make it feel sophisticated, even going over tram tracks, which we have to do a lot here in Bucharest. And it's also remarkably quiet, at least at lower speeds. Driving this in town, it's a fantastic A to B car. The steering is fairly light, although it's not the lightest, and I'm happy that it's a bit firmer than in some other new cars that I've tested. And you can firm it up in sport mode. Sure, it feels a bit artificial, but what new EV doesn't? And the steering is actually pretty pointy and connected. It does give you confidence through the corners, although this car's so-so body control won't make you want to push it through the corners. But other EVs just are more exciting to drive. The turning circle is also fantastic for a front-wheel drive car. This thing is very easily maneuverable. It's a great car for driving in town, but you can also drive it cross-country and enjoy the excellent suspension. The only thing I noticed is that driving at highway speeds, you do hear the tires quite a lot in the cabin, which is disappointing because this is otherwise such an accomplished and quiet car. Wind noise is also very well suppressed, and it's just a shame that these tires are so noisy inside the cabin. My tester has winter tires, which certainly exaggerate this problem, but it's something to take note of. But this is certainly a very pleasant car overall. The tech works beautifully. The automated driving works very well too. It does level 2 automated driving just fine. It holds its lane nicely on the highway. It keeps a safe distance to the car in front, no problem at all. And you can adjust the follow distance from the steering wheel. And it also has an automatic lane change feature. So when you're driving it with adaptive cruise control enabled, if you indicate, the car will make sure the lane change maneuver is safe, and then it will do it for you. You just have to keep your hands on the wheel, but you will notice that the car tugs on the wheel itself, and it's not you who's doing the lane change. And it works better than in many other cars I've tried. I'm also happy that there's a button to turn off the speed limit warning thing. You turn it off by holding the volume control on the steering wheel. So you get 2 choices of battery pack and 1 motor. It makes just over 200 horsepower. In the small battery version, it pushes the car to 100 kilometers per hour from a standstill in 7.5 seconds, while in a long-range car with the 81.3 kilowatt-hour battery, it rises to 7.8 seconds, even though the weight difference between the two variants isn't especially significant. The 81.4 kilowatt-hour car weighs 1,910 kilograms, while the 58.3 kilowatt-hour variant weighs 1,817 kilograms. so a difference of about 90 kg. Kia lists the battery weight for the long range as 475 kilograms, and for the other one it's 380. Performance is adequate, so with just over 200 horsepower in a 1.9 ton vehicle, you can kind of expect the level of acceleration that it can provide. You have a sport mode, which doesn't unleash any more horses from the front-mounted electric motor, but it just sharpens up the response from the right pedal, and it also firms up the steering. Kias aren't the most exciting cars to drive, except for the Stinger, and this is true of the EV4. It doesn't really feel sporty, and Kia definitely wasn't going for that with this car. But the seats are fantastic. Be warned that even though you can get electric seats, you need to pay extra for adjustable lumbar support, so keep that in mind. The infotainment experience in the EV4 is very good. You get 3 screens, one in front of the driver, one in between the 2 big screens, which handles climate settings. This is mostly blocked by the steering wheel, so I'm not sure why it's there, especially since you have physical controls for the climate. And it's a shame because I really like the 1990s gaming console graphics that this has. The infotainment screen itself is very good, no complaints there. CarPlay loads very quickly, and even just using the car's own operating system is perfectly fine. The navigation system is very good. The optional Harman Kardon audio system that this car has doesn't blow me away. It's fine, but it's not outstanding. I've heard other better setups from this brand in other cars. It seems to vary a lot with Harman Kardon. I mean, it's never a miss, but it's not always mind-blowing, like in some Mini and BMW vehicles where it just sounds really sweet and bassy and punchy. The start button is unusually placed on the transmission selector, which is below the wiper stalk. How do you reach for the button? Do you do it through the steering wheel or underneath it? Materials quality in the EV4 is pretty good, although I don't like this floating center console. It's made of hard plastic and it's not very pleasant to the touch. At least you have a nice handy little cubby here that you can put stuff in, as well as a row of physical controls. For auto hold, the surround view system, which is optional, but it's a must in this car because rear visibility through the C-pillar, especially if you look over your shoulder to the right, isn't outstanding. The dash is fairly soft, is it? It's kind of rubberized, but you can't sink your finger into it. The top of the dash is soft and it feels very good. The middle part of the door cards is nice and plush too. And the pockets, well, those are hard, but that's the case in a BMW too, so it is what it is. Overall, the interior quality is fine, but there are Chinese cars available in Europe right now, EVs, which feel a bit more posh inside. For instance, the BYD Seal, that feels a lot fancier than this, to be honest. And the driving position is better in the Seal too. The seat in this just doesn't go low enough. For me, it's just an annoyance because I'm not sitting as low as I would like in the car. But for some taller drivers, it might be a real problem because headroom is pretty limited. I do like the way the seats look though, and my GT-Line tester's 3-spoke steering wheel. The one in the regular car is a bit more boring looking, like the one you would get in the EV3. And it feels great to the touch. You can have the steering wheel heated, which is brutal. It will burn your hands a little bit, but it's also really nice on a miserable cold day like today. The seats are also piping hot if you put them on their 3rd and most powerful setting. And you can also specify cooled seats in this car, but my tester doesn't have them. Their 800-volt architecture allowed Kia EVs, such as the EV6 and the EV9, to charge at very high rates, over 230 kilowatts. The downgrade to 400 volts means the EV4 only charges at 135 kilowatts peak. The smaller battery model only goes up to 100. Granted, both will go from 10 to 80% in around 30 minutes. It's 31 minutes for the long range and 29 minutes for the standard range model. I charged it from 25 to 80% and it took exactly 28 minutes with a peak of 128 kilowatts, which it maintained until around after 40%. And all of this is pretty impressive considering I didn't precondition the battery on the way to the charger and the ambient temperature was around 8 degrees Celsius. That being said, Kia's vast EV making experience does shine through in this vehicle. For instance, when it comes to regen and one-pedal driving. So like in other Kias, you have paddles behind the steering wheel that allow you to control the level of regen. So level 0 is just pure coasting, level 1 adds a bit of resistance, level 2 feels like the engine braking you feel in a typical combustion engine, and if you go all the way to level 3, lifting off brings the car to a halt quite quickly. I was able to stop the car completely because I'm in iPedal mode, but unlike in older Kia models, iPedal mode is no longer strictly linked to a single level of regen. So now when you're in iPedal, which you activate by pulling on the left paddle and keeping it pulled until iPedal is displayed on the screen in front of the driver, but you can drive in iPedal with no brake regen. So even though the car won't stop on its own when you lift off, when it does eventually stop, I'm going to speed that up by braking myself. But when I lift off, the car doesn't creep forward. But wait, there's more. So just like you keep the left paddle pulled to enable iPedal, if you keep the right paddle pulled, you go into auto regen mode, which means it adjusts according to where you're driving and what's in front of you. It works pretty well in this setting, although it's not as smart and telepathic as it is in a Tesla, which always seem to stop exactly where you want it to. And this is a bit jerky. It sometimes doesn't begin regenning until you're quite close to the vehicle in front. Kia will launch an EV4 GT, which will get an additional motor powering the rear axle, which will have over 400 horsepower, and it should be significantly quicker. I guess the suspension will also be firmed up a little bit, although that will slightly compromise this car as a daily, which in its current configuration is fantastic. I would imagine that the standard 17-inch wheels, so this car is on 19s, make it feel even floatier and more comfortable than this. And you can get it in base air trim with the big battery and the small wheels, which is your longest range configuration for this vehicle. The trunk is decently sized too, 435 liters, and it's nice and square, although there's no way to power anything in the trunk. You just get one LED light to illuminate your cargo, but that's about it. This car does have optional V2L, and there's an actual household outlet under the back seat, which is pretty handy. I was expecting to like this car more than I did, to be honest. I like the way it looks. I think the hatchback is pretty interesting looking. It's an unusual sight on the road with its oblong headlights that look like they were designed by extraterrestrials. And I think this car shows Kia playing on its strengths. You can get it as a sedan, which Kia calls a Fastback, and that has the same long wheelbase, but 30 centimeters extra of rear overhang. And it looks quite controversial. We're gonna see if it's to Europeans' taste and whether anybody will buy it or if everybody will just get the hatchback, which is what I predict. But that car, because it has better aerodynamics, has a slightly longer range than this, and the trunk capacity increases from 435 liters in this hatchback to 490 liters. However, the trunk opening looks kind of small, and considering that in this you can remove the parcel shelf and fold the rear seats flat 60-40, and you can adjust the false floor higher so that it's flat, well, it's almost flat all the way through to the backs of the front seats. Even though that has more space on paper, this is the more practical variant. In the Kia lineup, this slots between the EV3 and the EV5. Both of those are crossovers, so they are quite different. And I can understand why somebody would choose an EV5 over this EV4, especially if they are tall and just want a bit more space in the car. It's a car that doesn't really make you think about it, which isn't something bad. You just get in it and drive and it works, and everything is where you expect it. There's absolutely nothing that's annoying about it. It majors on comfort when other cars just want to be sporty and aggressive, and this compromises them as a daily. It's a really good car. It's not perfect. I would honestly pick a Model 3 over this, even though that's only available as a sedan and this is a bit more practical. And the Model 3 is also more engaging to drive, even in non-performance trim. I've tried both the long range and performance Model 3s on the channel if you want to check out those videos. They were some of my first interactions with Tesla vehicles and I was really impressed. And they are in many ways more annoying than this Kia, but they are very good cars. And the EV4 is definitely a good car, but I think it should be a bit cheaper to be successful. You can obviously just get the small battery in this if you don't plan on doing any long journeys, which in Romania, where the government will pay you around 3,000 euros if you scrap an old car and buy an electric vehicle. So you can bring the price down with incentives, and maybe the dealer will throw in a discount too. Here, Meet Motors, which is the dealer that gave me this car, gives you a 1,500 euro discount off the list price. And I'm sure this is the same throughout Europe where these cars are on sale. It's worth noting that the hatchback is made here in Europe, and it's Kia's first EV built on the continent. The Fastback is still built in Korea and cars are imported into Europe. I like this car. The biggest reason I like it is because it's not another dumb crossover. It's a proper hatchback. And if you want it as a sedan and can live with that design, that's fine. So I'm curious to see what the EV4 GT is going to be like. Apparently it's going to have a simulated engine and simulated gears, which should make it a bit more exciting. I mean, those are pointless features, but they just add something extra to an otherwise completely silent vehicle. And you can always turn them off. Whether the EV4 will actually be successful remains to be seen, because competition is very stiff in this compact EV segment, although most competitors are crossovers. So maybe bringing a hatchback to market will give Kia an edge. Thank you for watching.